So, Jeron, happy to have you here. I know I made the call with you last week about coming and doing this podcast, and it's one I've been looking forward to. Pretty excited to have you.
Hey, thank you, man. I am excited to be here. So
tell us a little bit about your business. What's the name of it, and what do you guys specialize in?
So we have two different businesses. The first one is Strickly Us Films. The official name is Strickly Us Media LLC, but we go by Strickly Us Films. And basically what we focus on is content creation for small business and personal brands. So that means photography, videography, website branding, you name it. You know, anything that's dealing within the realm of content creation, whether it's graphics, podcasts, like we're doing here, but it's all specifically for branding purposes.
Okay. So talk to me about your start. So why media? Why did you decide to get into marketing?
All right. So kind of goes back to childhood. My dad is an entrepreneur. He's been an entrepreneur his whole life. And as a child, just like, you know, with most entrepreneurs, my dad had me working with him, right? And doing the business with him. So it was kind of ingrained in me as a young child. But I am more of a work smart type person rather than work hard, you know. So
tell me about that.
Many paths a person can go down to accomplish a goal, right? I would rather go down the smarter path, you know, where using collaboration, using digital assets, using things like AI,
right,
you know, to assist me, rather than, you know, saying, hey, I did it all by myself.
Sure. So with your dad being an entrepreneur, as you coming up, what kind of stuff was he involved in?
So he had a horticultural business.
Okay.
Yeah, so he did landscaping, you know, he did cutting, mowing yards, that kind of stuff. Later on, it transitioned into construction and renovation of homes and businesses and that deal. But he was always, you know, a solopreneur. He was always by himself or had a small staff.
Well, it sounds like, you know, the type of work that he was in, he had to be a hard worker.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that I love as an entrepreneur or small business owner is that you don't have to worry about at the end of the year if someone values you enough to give you a raise.
Yeah.
If you didn't get that raise, it's because you just didn't put in enough work to make it happen. Because the truth of it is that if someone has a dream, they're willing to pursue it, work hard at it, it's achievable.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and that's one thing that I take from my dad, and he and I are still really good friends now. Even though he's my dad, he's one of my better friends.
Sure.
You know, is that work ethic, you know, and I say I like to work smart and not hard. But I'm working hard in different ways. I'm working hard at being smart.
Absolutely, you know? And I'm for that. I mean, if you can utilize leverage or other tools, I mean, why not? It allows you to touch more people because you have time. You know, the only thing that we can't get any more back of is time.
That's right.
And time's precious to me. So your upbringing with your dad, he's an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Did you grow up here in Monroe? Or?
I didn't. So I'm originally from New Orleans.
Okay.
So I'm one of those people that have kind of lived a little bit of everywhere. So Hurricane Katrina happened my freshman year of college. So that kind of wiped out me going back to New Orleans. From there, I moved to Baton Rouge, Texas.
Traveling man.
Yeah, man. You know, so Thibodaux, Louisiana, and eventually to Monroe, where I met my wife, and we had our little girl. And so, you know, Monroe kind of sucked me in that area.
And you're here now.
I'm here, man.
So you mentioned college. What did you study at school?
I studied marketing. Right. Marketing and advertising.
What drew you to that? Why marketing and advertising?
Like I said, going back to childhood, it was the business aspect. I wanted to understand. I knew the hard work aspect of it, but I wanted to understand how to reach people. You know, that was the biggest thing for me. You know, getting to the masses, understanding traditional. At the time, digital advertising was in its infancy.
Sure.
You know, people didn't even really talk about it. It was.
What year are we talking about?
We're talking early 2000s. So, you know, let's call it high school was 2003. So 2004 to 2000, maybe 7.
Yeah, I got into real estate in 2006, and there were some people are just coming out of the pager lifestyle into the to the mobile phone, and websites started becoming a big thing, and everybody felt like they had to have a website at that point, to where, seeing things kind of come full circle, that websites aren't what they used to be anymore. That's not necessarily where everybody's going to get their information.
Yeah.
So what got you involved in, so we know marketing business, you were passionate about that, but what about the photography and the videography? How did that come into play?
Yeah, so working with a bunch of companies that that I worked with, I started seeing that content was the biggest downfall of small businesses, specifically with the company that I worked with right before I launched my own business. That was all I did, was branding for large dealerships across the country. And so the main issue was always not enough pictures, not enough video, not enough information, tangible information for a customer to make a decision before coming onto the lot.
Right.
And so using that, I did that for 4 years, using that kind of that influence and that skill set that I developed, I said, if it's for these, $1 million businesses, like $100 million businesses, then I know it's the same thing going across the board. And so I launched out, got some help with some research, doing market research. I started just in Louisiana in general, and I saw that was the main deal. People use social media to sell, whereas they should have been putting things on Google or putting it on their website, and it was getting all muddied up, and so
it's like everybody wants to take that shotgun effect because they don't know what else to do.
They don't know, and how can you effectively do anything if you don't know? If you give me the keys to a brand new Ferrari and I don't know where the ignition is, it's just going to be a pretty piece of equipment sitting in my lot. And so it's teaching people and teaching specifically business owners how to navigate these digital waters, because the reality is we're in the wild, wild west right now. All the generations before this generation never experienced anything to this magnitude as far as change, as far as connectivity globally, even sales globally, and crossing the waters and just all kind of stuff, man. We never experienced it like this at this rate where a 12-year-old could do it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's gotten to that point that sometimes the kids catch on to these trends way faster than we do, and we're always find ourselves in that lag of always trying to catch up if we don't try to stay ahead of what's happening.
That's right.
So looking at your, I think I found on your LinkedIn profile, it looks like you started somewhere around March 2020. So if that's the case, you're like pre-pandemic, like right as the pandemic is about to hit.
Yeah.
Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah. So I went full time in March 2020, and a funny story behind that, right? So I was working for a Fortune 100 company, and the day I quit my job, I received a promotion on a fast track promotion, right? And I was left with a little dilemma. Now, I'm a person of faith. I mean, faith is number one for me. And I believed in my heart that was the right thing for me to do, to leave my company and go out on my own with this content creation and stuff. So I put in a 60-day notice that day, and the pandemic, I think the first day that I started my career, was my full-time career, and it was Strickly Us, was March 1st, and the pandemic hit maybe March 13th or so.
Mid-month.
It was something crazy like that, so.
And then shortly after that, lockdown started happening.
Lockdown happened.
What started rolling through your mind during that time? I just stepped out on faith to create this business.
Yeah.
And it's all on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Now we're in lockdown mode.
Well, funny thing that happened was, soon as the lockdown happened, everything went online. Zoom calls. People were trying to do, everything, whether it was church, whether it was meetings, whether it all needed video. And so by that time, I'm talking about booming. You know, I was getting calls, probably 3 or 4 calls a day. Hey, can you come help us out with this? Can you come do this with us? Can you come show us how to do this? Can you come put on a class for this?
So, from what I hear, it basically launched you.
It did.
Probably right out of the gate, and gave you the confidence, like, yeah, we're gonna be able to do this.
Yeah.
Not to say you didn't have confidence to get started, but I know that. I know that for me personally, that when I step out on faith on something, I've got the confidence that in my abilities. But it's not all about my ability. It's about how are people going to perceive my ability, or am I going to be able to make the connections with the customers to be able to get the sustainable business? And for me, it's been great. And looking back at your business since you started, and the people that you're collaborating with and making things happen, looks like things are going great for you as well.
They are going great, man. A lot of that, like I said, is connection. A lot of that is outside of me. I just try to be my authentic self with everyone that I meet. And, people, from what I've found, they're drawn to authenticity, because so often in this world of followers and, subscribers, we're all taught to wear a mask and to wear these certain personas so that people can like you and they can follow you. You got to wear a certain color because that draws this kind of attention and blase. But for me, I was just like, look, this is who I am. And that decides for me whether I want to work with you, whether you want to work with me.
Right.
And if that's the case, then, most times people want to work with me because they see that I am true to what I believe in, and I try to do my best for people. So,
well, the area where we met was a well-known professional in this area referred us to you. My wife was running for school board at the time, and we felt like we needed to be able to tell her story.
Yeah.
And when we both came and met with you, we were just like, this is it. This is where we want our story told. And you really took your time with her and with me and our kids to really sit down and script out a storyline that I thought was very engaging. So talk to me about storytelling in a video.
Yeah.
Tell me the impact of being able to tell a good story, and how do you structure that to get the impact?
Okay. Let's start with the experience, right? I can't tell you about my 13th birthday party, or, I can't tell you about some random day in my life, but I can tell you about experiences that changed me. Maybe an experience that changed me when I was 13 or when I was 5 or when I was 21 or whatever the case. And so experiences help us remember, right? And so when you write a story, whether it's for a video or for a movie or for a podcast or whatever it may be, it should be geared around the experience that a person can hold on to and preferably put themselves inside.
Right.
And so when we write stories for like in your case, we want to tell many different sides of the paradigm. We want to show the mother, we want to show the father, we want to show the children, we want to show the outside influence, the church influence. We want to show all of these different perspectives because each one of them means something, and each one of them has its own sphere of influence. And so writing a story for me is all of that. It's all of those pieces put together, and when you can effectively put those pieces together, then you can create a piece that engages on many different levels and, has the potential to reach many different people.
So I know that when we did the shoot, there was a lot of shots that were taken, and many of them were not used in the video. How do you, when you're in that editing phase of that video, trying to tell this story, how do you decide what stays and what doesn't?
That's kind of tough. I'm getting better at that now, and I think that's one of the things that come with time. But for me now versus, when we shot, it's more geared towards how I can effectively push the narrative, whatever that narrative is. And so some shots may push the narrative and in a different way. You know, if we're talking about children, then it's important to have children in the shot versus, you could have parents, but that would take the narrative into the direction of the parent versus the child. And so that's what I'm kind of leaning more towards. As I get further along in my career, I'm starting to see that you can kind of pre-plan that stuff, with storyboarding and different tools that are used. But as any filmmaker would tell you, sometimes you have to go on the fly.
Sure.
and get what you could get,
So with the space of digital marketing, I think you and I can both agree the way of print media, it's not all the way dead. I'm still seeing some success at times with direct mail, but the newspaper as we know it, I mean, really is irrelevant in today when it really comes to marketing overall. So from the digital scape of that, how do you feel video fits into that, and how would you rank video versus on the digital side versus just text on the digital side?
So I will say this, okay? I believe in different demographics, right? Each demographic has a certain medium that they love, right? So for boomers, newspaper isn't dead, right? They love the newspaper. They're keeping the newspaper alive. Even for some Generation X people, they're keeping the newspaper alive because that's all they've ever known. Whereas if I'm trying to talk to, a Gen Z person, they're like, what's a newspaper? You know, like, where is that? They've
never seen one at the end of their driveway, have they?
Where do I subscribe to that at? Is that, can I follow it? So it's one of those things to knowing the people who you're talking to. All of these are just tools, man. In the 90s, there was the phone book, where people could look up a number by searching through the phone book. Well, now it's Google.
Right.
It's the same concept, it's just transferred, So all of these are just tools, and I think keeping that high level aspect of these are all tools, they could all be used in an effective way. You just have to know who you're talking to, because some tools won't work on certain groups.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. From the video aspect of marketing, how vital do you think it is for a business today to produce video about their business?
Absolutely.
To be involved with some video on some level in their business?
I think it is super imperative. It is 100%. That should be one of the top things that business owners do. You should have a welcome video on your website. And I'm still a strong believer in websites. I believe websites will be your best workers. I'm talking about never call off. They'll never take a sick day.
Sure.
They know everything about your business, and they'll be able to point, your potential client or customer in the right direction if they're set up the proper way.
Yeah, and I think that's key. That I've explained to agents before that talk about they really want a website, and I'm like, that's well and good, but that's just a really expensive billboard in the middle of a desert that nobody's going to see unless you know what to do with it. You're going to have to set it up, and you're going to have to put effort in to making that website to where it can be seen.
That's
so
right.
It sounds like you have some experience in that.
Absolutely, yeah, man. So website is one of the things that that I would say is it's kind of like a foundational piece of business. It's not the very first thing that a person would see. Your potential customer is not high funnel. Is very low funnel. Mm-hmm. By the time they get to the website, that means that they have made their mind up that you're the person that they want to most likely go with. And the website is kind of that push over the cliff, right? And then there's social media on top of that, and then on top of that, there's Google. On top of that is YouTube, mm-hmm. And that's where the video comes in, right? Because it's a quick launch. And I believe in all forms of video.
Sure.
Short form, long form, little snippets.
So you mentioned lost train of thought there. Oh, you mentioned the type of videos that a business should have briefly. So let's go a little deeper into that. So welcome video, I agree with that. Welcome videos are great. It's kind of a get to know you. Most of the customers that I'm not in current relationship with, that we start doing business, when they reach out to me, I found that they have spent a lot of time on the internet doing their homework on me, and where they've watched videos, because you can kind of hear them referencing things that I know that I've had in a video. So what other types of videos do you think, promotional videos, do you think it's vital for a small business, or really business of any level to have?
It just kind of depends. So if it's a service business, I believe that every business owner should be an expert in their service industry.
Okay.
So making videos that show expertise, whether it's giving free tips, and those are really easy to do, right? These little shorts that you see on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, 1 minute clips. Hey, guys, if you want this tip, follow me for more. They should all be doing that, and I mean, that's 2 hours out of your month. You can make 10, 15 of them and put them on, like an auto schedule. Yeah, there you go. And now you have content that's constantly out there. That's one. Another is kind of like what we're doing here, podcasts, whether it's industry based or a wider net to where it's more social based. Speaking to different communities, every business owner should be doing something similar. Especially if they're in like products,
right.
The product industry. They definitely should be doing that.
Showcasing their products, I mean, the benefits, pros, cons, all that good stuff.
Yeah, man.
So when we talk, so for many years, a lot of my marketing within real estate is that we've kind of been force-fed, because although a big portion of my job is marketing, sales have to come into play. So it's trying to find that balance, how much time you spend on marketing versus getting out in the field and doing sales. So then here comes all the boilerplate stuff that they start feeding to you. Just, post this boilerplate, all these templates that are out there. Give me your take on, I wouldn't say non-genuine, but authentic videos, authentic material of the real person or the real thing, versus here's just a very sterile view of what we have, and it's just boilerplate. It has some sales pitches in it. What do you think resonates best with the marketplace?
Authenticity.
Man, every time, doesn't it?
Every single time. I should have a shirt on that say "Be authentic,"
right.
Because that's what people want. That's what each individually we want that. We want somebody that's going to tell us the truth. That's going to say, hey, look, specifically about this house. This house is for a person that's raising their kids. If you don't have children, this may be a cool house for you, but there may be better options. Sometimes that may cause you to lose the sale, or sometimes it may cause you to gain 3 or 4 sales. I've had that happen in video all the time, to where I had to tell some people, hey, I don't think I'm the right person. The right person for you. But because I was able to do that, now they sit on some board and they say, hey, look, we want to bring you in because of what you told us 3 or 4 months ago.
You could have taken our money, and we might have been okay with the project, but you told us the truth so that we could get what we're really asking. And I agree with that. But it's, for me as a small business owner, it's hard. It's hard to get behind that camera. It's hard to, it's not hard for me to be authentic.
Yeah.
But it's hard sometimes for me, and I think for many people, to be authentic in front of a camera, because we're all so intimidated, you know.
The camera is unforgiving.
I know it is. And, we're so instilled in us through, and social media, I think, is the culprit of it, is that all you ever see is people highlights. You don't see their trouble. So when you get that camera faced on you, it's tough. It's really tough to be anything. I mean, because it's like no telling who's going to see this and how long it's going to be out there. So we're in the marketing strategy that Alex and I have. We're all about evergreen content. So one of the great things we like about video, and if you look at some of this early stuff I did, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe we did that. but I had to force myself to get in front of the camera and start speaking. And I think if you poll most of my customers, they'll tell you I'm very authentic. But man, it just everything comes more difficult when you get to turn that camera on. And I know you spend probably a lot more time behind the camera instead of in front of it. So how do you talk to your customers, your clients, about how to relax and be authentic when that red light comes on?
That's a great question. So one of the first things that I like to teach is when you know you're going to be on camera, take 3 5-minute videos of yourself, right? And the first 5-minute video, you cut the sound off and you just watch yourself. You watch your mannerisms. You watch how you use your hands. Watch how you use your face. You watch how many times you say, you know,
that one's really, I mean, look, you talked about AI earlier. I mean, there's some AI technology out there that'll get rid of those ums.
That's right.
Because you get more self-conscious when you start watching your videos back. Man, I can't believe I said 10 times, or I used that's amazing 24 times in 30 minutes.
That's right.
So we're all our own worst critics. But I think you'll agree with this, that the first step is to take that step.
Yeah, it is to take the step. And the honest truth is we have to know our deficiencies, you know, and for most of us, being on camera, unless you like a newscaster or you went to school for it, is not a natural thing. And the moment that we can agree to say, you know, hey, look, this is not natural for me. This is a skill that I have to develop. This is a skill that I have to learn. You know, I need certain tools to do that. Then that is the first step. The second step and the third step, you know. Another thing is listen to your audio. Cut the camera off and just listen to what you sound like. I'll tell you, man, so many times people that I record, they're like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I sound like a troll, or I sound like a country bumpkin, or whatever the case. They hate the way they sound because they don't listen to themselves. You know, the more you listen to yourself, you get more comfortable with your sound, and then you're able to articulate better. You're able to slow down sometimes, you know, and those filler words, eliminate them. Sometimes silence is okay, you know, to be in thought. And that's one of the tools that I like to use, or two of the tools that I like to use to help people be more comfortable with themselves and their own skin so that they can be more authentic.
How does it work for you when you have the camera pointed at you to make it happen?
Well, I'm not going to know until I look back at this, you know. So, you know, once I watch this, you know, of course I'm right now in the back of my mind, you know, the director side of me is like, sit up straight, stop saying make sure you have great eye contact, you know. But it is difficult, and I'll be the first to admit it is. But at the same time, it has to be done.
Would you say that this would be a more true than untrue, that if a business owner is not in video now, just taking that step to get involved in it is going to increase their opportunity for more business?
Yes, I would say that. It's the reach. You know, it's all about meeting people where they are.
So when we talk about the reach, and we talk about the different platforms, and you touched on a little while ago about, you know, the different types. Our generation, and I think this is fairly true across all generations, is that we're in the scrolling game. We just get on that telephone, we just start scrolling. So the attention span is not very long. So when short form video started becoming popular, you start seeing a ton of that stuff out there. I know for me, I consume a lot more short form video than I do long form. But I still feel like there's going to be a place for long form video to hang around. I think there's a balance between the two. Am I thinking about that correctly?
You are thinking about that, and I believe, like for this podcast should have long form, which we're doing, right? Medium form, where we're taking topics. Short form. Right. You know, the short form brings in the attention to the medium and the long form.
Yeah, and I found for myself that I get engaged with different podcasts because I watch that short form first, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to put that on my favorites, and I'm going to come back and listen to a full length. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
For us, we have found that we get a lot more interaction on short form, but that interaction is typically outside of the sphere that I'm trying to attract, to where our long form tends to attract more local embedded people that want to know all of the details, just not a few of the details. Okay. So when you're working with customers and you're trying to set up a plan for them, do you typically try to lay out just a comprehensive plan that says that, look, Miss Business Owner, we know that you're offering this service, and we will be able to get more bang for your buck if we diversify across platforms versus just focusing on one? What is the strategy you go in when you meet with a client for the first time and you're looking to help them on the marketing of their business?
Yeah. So a lot of that is geared around budget, right? Let's just say if there's a smaller budget, I'll say, hey, let's dominate one platform. Put all your eggs into this basket. We'll look at through analytics and research what's the platform that you have the most engagement on, and then you become a master of that platform.
Right.
Now, if you have a wider budget or a larger budget, hey, let's start diversifying it to different platforms, because when you look at platforms, once again, you're looking at demographics. It's certain age groups, it's certain people groups that are certain communities that are on certain platforms.
Sure.
So if you're looking to touch business CEOs and executive directors, Facebook could be a way to go, but you really should be looking at LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
If you're looking at teenagers and you're looking at college students, Facebook is cool or LinkedIn is cool, but you really should be, Instagram really more on Snapchat and TikTok.
Right.
So finding those different groups and realizing that they're just tools. These are the places that they congregate. If online was a mall, Sears would be Facebook, and
sure,
JCPenney's would be another social media platform, and looking at it that way instead of looking at it like this is the end-all, be-all.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate you mentioning that. I see too many people that will head down a path of marketing that it's going to look good when you put it out there, but there's either no call to action within that marketing, or they spent everything in one area and they're not going to get a rate of return on it. For us, when we start a new marketing stream, we know that we have to have a budget that's set for it.
Yeah.
Because if we start and don't have a budget, we're going to spend ourselves out of business. But we also have to allocate a time to see if the ROI is going to be there. We have to really look at the analytics. And I think sometimes too many people will just start throwing money at a problem without looking at their ROI or any of the details of their analytics. And truth be told, they could have saved an awful lot of money and achieved the same results if they would have went in with a plan. So I am pro hiring a professional to help people in their marketing. Some people are really good at sales, but they don't have any knowledge base within the marketing side of it. And a professional that can help enhance the business is worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, man. I like to tell a lot of people that whatever your business is, that's what you started. That's what you're good at. That's right. What you know. That's what you love to do. When you spend time being the accountant and you spend time being the tax attorney and the social media director and the customer service director, that takes away from what you love.
That's right.
And that's when your sales start to falter, and that's when you start seeing less business coming in, because you're not spending 8 hours a day on your one main deal. You're spending 2 hours on your main deal, and an hour here and an hour there and an hour there and an hour there, and now you're burnt out and it looks like nothing is done. So hire the people that you need to hire. Sometimes it can be an expense, that small business. From
the marketing side, that expense, if you hire the right individual, that expense should lead to profit, right?
It should.
So if you spend the right money, now I don't believe in the saying it takes money to make money, because I still think that you can make money on a budget until you get to the point where you can spend the money.
Yeah.
But you don't get any more time back.
Yeah.
For me, buying my time by hiring professionals to do the things that I'm not great at makes money. I mean, it's worth it. I don't want to work that 16-hour day to achieve the same results. If I can do the same results by spending a little bit of money and buy my time back to where it's only taking me 4 to 6 hours, I'm going to do that all day long.
Right.
So let's dive into technology. I know that so we talked 2020 that full-time you get started, and we're 2023, so we're right 3 years into
3 years
your business, and 3 years when it comes to technology is like 10, 15 years when I was a kid growing up, because things are just turning over so fast with the latest and greatest of everything. So how do you feel equipment plays a role in being able to produce quality product for people?
When you say equipment, talk about it.
So let's just talk about for videography that you're doing. We're talking about lighting. We're talking about sound. We're talking about cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to have the latest and greatest of everything to produce quality content?
No, you don't. You don't. As we were saying, kind of off camera, a lot of business owners, they think, I got to have this $10,000 camera and I have to have these $5,000 mics. No, you need to know the concepts of what makes things visually appealing, and lighting is a big thing. Having good, big, soft lighting, whether it's a window or whether it's artificial lighting, that will go a long way for even with cheaper cameras. Now, granted, you will have a quality fall off,
sure.
Because if you get a cinema camera versus a $100 Best Buy camera, there is going to be a quality fall off, but that goes into who you trying to reach. If you're just trying to reach the guy that's scrolling, they don't care about the quality fall off, because they're used to seeing things from an iPhone anyway, so if it looks better than the iPhone looks, then hey, that's a win to them. Now, if you're trying to reach somebody who is, hey, this has to be professional, this has to be a certain look, then yeah, of course, you want to get the higher quality cameras and the higher quality lenses. But all in all, man, it's about the story. It's about the content. These are just tools. The cameras, the lights, those are just tools. It's about the content.
The story. So what I hear is the story's going to win just about every time.
Just about every time, yeah, it is. Every time the story. If the story is an effective story, if it's authentic, if it solves a problem or tugs a heartstring, then that is what the people want to see. That's what they love to see.
Let's talk about user-generated, from the business space, user-generated content in partnership with professionally generated partnership. So if a business is marketing and they're producing their own content, let's just say they're selling vehicles, they're on the lot, they are sales manager just talking about a new arrival of a vehicle, and he just holds his iPhone camera up and he posts that to social media, but also wants to incorporate some professional stuff. Do you think it's okay to mix the two when it comes to advertising? And where's that balance?
So I do think it is okay. Now, if you subscribe to somebody like Gary Vee says, hey, let's put out 100 pieces of content a day, Now, unless you have $1 billion budget, it's tough to pay a professional to put out 100 pieces of content a day. So some of that stuff has to be, user generated. And that's them also taking a podcast that's 2 hours long, cutting it down to 10 different segments or 15 different segments. So, I believe that balance is definitely there. I think, if you can afford it, try to put out at least one professional piece a week, whether it's a reel or whether it's some kind of, video just explaining the difficulties in the industry or some new processes that people haven't seen yet. You know, or if you can't do that, at least one a month. If you can't do that, one a quarter.
Right.
You know, just try to have it in there somewhere, because you don't want to be put in the category of mom and pop, even though you may be a mom and pop, right? You don't want to ever be put in that category, because then when larger opportunities come available,
you may miss it.
You may miss it.
Yeah.
You know.
So when you sit down with a new client, and again, for us, we were looking for one specific video, but talking on a little bit larger scale to where someone's looking to say, Jeron, I need to grow my business, but I don't have a huge budget. Is there still opportunity for us to work together?
Okay.
I mean, is that possible to where you can find out what that budget is, and small budget for some people is definitely going to be different than what small budget for other people is going to be.
Right.
So let's just say that the budget is large enough for you to work with them. How are you going to take that person from that small budget to that bigger budget? How are you going to come in and analyze what they're doing to know what to recommend for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. First thing we'll look at is what are you doing now? What have you been doing over the last year? What have you been doing over the lifetime? So those three areas, that's the first places that we will look at, right? Now, year, lifetime of your business. Once we have a kind of a scale on that, we look at certain parameters. Do you have the essentials set up? Do you have a website? Do you have a social media presence? Do you have a Google listing? Are all of those things cohesive? Or do you have a different phone number on Google than you have on your website, right? If those are all good, then we're going to look at, are you doing things like paid advertising? Or are you doing things like organic advertising? You know, SEO, SMM, like these kind of things, do they matter to you? If those things are good, then you're pretty good. Most people, that's where it ends right there, you know? And so from there, that's where we'll start looking at the different levels of marketing. Okay, do we go with video campaigns? Do we go with more of an influencer campaign? You know, where we get people who have a bigger following to start following you, because at the end of the day, followers equate to numbers.
Right.
Sales, let's call it sales. That's what it is, you know. And so if you have 10,000 followers, then we'll do a reverse study to see, okay, how many of these 10,000 followers actually lead to sales? Most people don't know the lifetime value of their customer.
Right.
They don't even know what that is. You know, they say, well, you know, my average spend is X amount of dollars. Well, how many times does that customer come in and spend with you?
And that's very important to know, because, I mean, if you knew that it took you from an advertising standpoint $1 to receive $100.
Yeah.
Every dollar spent, which I wish that was the case. I'm not at that point in my business. But if you could get down to understand that this is what it's going to, the cost to acquire a customer is X through marketing, then you have a plan to where you can scale. People would understand that, hey, well, if I just invest another $5,000 into this, that's going to produce another $100K in profit.
That's right.
Which those numbers are slanted on
right,
that.
Right.
But I wish that was. I mean,
I'd be booming if that
businesses all over. I mean, you'd have Gary Vee come.
That's right.
And say, Ron, come on, man, let's do some stuff.
Yes, 5K. There you go.
But I do think it's important. So the analytics of anything you do, understanding where the money is going is huge, because you have to understand the potential that you're having. And I think a professional like you can actually help people determine that if I've got a budget of whatever thousand that I have to go out, if you're not tracking where it's going, potentially you're just kind of flushing it down the toilet at that point. I mean, there's something to be said just to be seen. Well, this brings me to another question. So how do you balance with a business? So talk with Strickland from a business standpoint. How do you balance that unique story of the person, then incorporate the product and a call to action while remaining authentic through the process? Because that's tough.
Yeah. So just depending on the business, you know, a lot of small business owners, the person is the brand. You know, they haven't separated yet. And so I try to stick with one or the other. I don't try to tell both stories because it can become confusing.
It can.
You know, and so until that separation has happened, I try to at least tell one story. If the person is the story, that's where we stick with, and then we go to the story of the product, and then we go, or the service, and then we go to, the story of the customer, how this thing could actually affect. Because I'm not in the business of selling right now. I'm in the business of one day when you need my service, when you need what I sell and what I have, you know where to come.
Yeah, you know who I am and what I stand for.
You know who I am. I'm going to always be there reminding you, whether it's with a podcast or whether it's with a video or whether it's with a social post. But you're going to know. If you need video, you can come to Jeron. If you need photography, you can come to Jeron. And I believe that same concept with every partner that I have, in our business. And I like to get people to subscribe to that too.
When you're looking at, and this kind of similar question, when you're working on a video, everybody would love for their content to go viral,
right? When
you put it out there. What elements do you think a video needs to have to be able to go viral? Or if not viral, go to be able to reach a lot more than the average without having to boost it by paying for people to watch the ad?
Yeah.
Do you have a secret sauce to make something go viral? 'Cause if you do,
the moment I put it out there, Facebook is going to change the algorithm.
Yeah.
But no, in the past, man, many different things made videos go. And if you look on YouTube or Google, they'll say you got to have a hook. You got to have in that first 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff is true, but it's really based on the engagement of your audience. That's what most of these algorithms, especially in 2023, that's what they're geared around. If your audience engages immediately, then the algorithm will say, hey, let's start putting more of that in front of more people. Now, as far as the video, it's layers built on it. Of course, you have to have that kind of snappy hook within the first 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. If you could catch them there, I like to have titles. Let's show what this video is about here. In the beginning of the show or in the beginning of the video, don't, come on, hey, I'm Jeron, this is me again. We already know all of that.
We know who you are.
Cut straight to the point.
Yeah.
What is this about? If I'm selling,
what's the value?
There you go. Let's put it there.
Or what problem are we going to solve for you today?
And look, get to the point with the whole deal. If you say you're going to give me 10 steps, don't make the first 5 minutes of the video thanking your sponsors and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I tune out when that stuff happens. Yeah, there's good content out there, but if they're going to spend 5 minutes talking about the sponsors who's sponsoring this, and especially the same one you see all the time, it's like, man, come on, let's get to the meat of what's happening here.
Like, that kind of makes me upset. I'll scroll through and I'll skip through in like 3 minutes, and they're still talking. I'm like, on to the next. I don't even want the content anymore, you know? And so it's little things like that because, like you said, time is valuable. The quicker you can deliver the value to the person, that's the more important you become to them.
How hard is it for you to keep up with the trends that are going on? Because, man, it's hard for me. It's when I say it's hard, things change so stinking fast. I think back to I'll be 48 this year. I think back to when we got our first computer in our house. I forget, probably teenager at that moment, and all we knew to do with it is play solitaire and change the colors or the background on it. Till we've got these iPhones that have more power, or Android more power than what that first home computer had in it. So that technology has changed at such a rapid rate with AI. And I watched a video the other day where someone was using AI to take the sound quality of just a phone microphone, turn it into, studio sound. It's just technology is going so fast. How do you manage to keep up with it? Because this is your space. Digital advertising is where your bread and butter is. So, is it hard for you to keep up with the changing? And then when you're trying to keep up with it, I know for me, I want to test and play things, and heck, that gets expensive because everybody wants to charge you $10 or $30 for this and that. Yeah. How do you stay engaged in that?
I love it, man. It's not even a task for me. Like, I'm looking at it, and so bring my wife in here, and she'll say, oh, 11 o'clock at night, he's watching YouTube videos of the next best thing, you know, and I have a specific budget that's set to the side just for, you know, research and development.
Like, testing new things out.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
Yeah, if this is my industry, I should be the expert in my industry.
100% agree. And for me, it's that balance of research versus production. I mean, sometimes I want to be on that research. Oh man, this is cool over here. This is cool over here. Let's try this. Well, we kind of have a rule now that we're going to think about it a couple of times before we try to implement something, because I don't want to be. I'm not afraid of change.
Yeah.
I embrace change.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be in a constant state of change to where it then becomes chaotic at that point.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about audio quality and music in a video.
Okay.
About how that impacts the story and the emotions that's generated through that content someone's creating.
Yeah, man. Audio is probably one of the hardest things to choose when creating a video, because it is the immediate emotional indicator. You know, if you have soft, dramatic music over a live, upbeat video, it's going to throw it off. And even though the consumer won't know what exactly is wrong with the video, it'll be like, something doesn't feel right in this, you know? Vice versa, if you have the perfect music mix with the perfect video blend, man, it'll draw and it'll bring up emotions inside of a person, because, you know, that's what we are. We're audio visual people. You know, we use the senses together until they can bring like smell into it and touch into the video. Right.
Which probably will be here before we know it.
I know, which, you know, virtual reality, that stuff is coming. You know, augmented reality, all of that stuff is on the way. But, you know, right now, as for 2023, that's all we have is audio and visual. So when the audio and the visual lines up, man, you're talking about a dynamic piece, you know, and it could be a piece about nothing. But if the video matches the audio, as far as music bed and even voiceover, you know, vocal tones, all of those type of things are important to me when we're creating, you know, videos. So like I have a list of voiceover artists that I use that, you know, some of them were Emmy award-winning artists, you know, and some of them were just doing it in their bathroom. But, you know, but they all have a different dynamic that allows them to tell a story a different way.
But even the user themselves, if they don't have a good microphone quality with it, and let's just take the music out of the background, that could be a huge turnoff for somebody if that audio is not where it needs to be. So for me, I think it's crucial to make sure your audio is on point. But I've just been amazed at the study I'm doing right now is about how music, the selection of it, how it generates different emotions to the content you're currently creating, and how it's a big necessity as far as the success of the content you're creating. It sounds like you're on the same page as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, absolutely. It's, you know, the music is so important. You know, microphones are so important. But like you said, there are audio, you know, AI tools that can enhance mics. But it's always good. I love to get it right, you know, in person.
Sure.
You know, if we could get it right in person, then that's less work on the back end. That goes all the way back to our original conversation, working smart and not hard.
Right.
You know, now when I didn't have the resources that I have today, then of course I had to use those tools to help me out, you know, use what I had. But man, it's important to have great mics. You know, it's important to have great lighting. Those two features are probably two of the biggest deals. You know, cameras are always good, but they come out with new cameras every single year.
Sure.
You know, I still use cameras from 2018, you know, which you ask somebody else, man, those are ancient, man. It might as well be, you know, in last century, you know, but they still work. They still work wonders, you know.
Yeah, but if you bought all the new tech when it came out, I mean, go bankrupt really quick if you're buying the latest and greatest. And it blows me away how expensive some of that equipment is. But there is good quality equipment that's out there. It's affordable for people. So if you're a content creator, it's just like us. We were explaining before. I had a choice of getting one really nice camera or 3 good enough cameras to get started, and I chose let's just go with good enough, and as we grow, we'll build and go from there. What's the 1 or 2 things that you would like to communicate to the business community that feels like they're behind on their marketing and they would like to go to that next level and be able to see the returns from it and get the exposure they need? What would you like to communicate to those people?
First thing I would like to say is be definite about who you are in your industry. If you're a store owner or if you're a realtor or if you are, whatever you are, be definite about that. Learn that like the back of your hand. Like, know it. Become that expert. So when someone comes to you about whatever you're serving or selling, you'll be able to tell them, spitball it, have a 30-second pitch about it, have a 3-hour pitch about it, know it. That's the first thing I would say. Second thing I would say is trust the process. Trust that it's not going to happen in a week.
Right.
You may have a video that, gets 13, 14,000 views, but then once people have seen that video, they've seen it. Scroll to the next one. So it's going to be consistent process that happens over a period of time, whether that period is 6 months, 18 months, 36 months. Mm-hmm. However long, set that goal and trust it and know I'm going to continue to do it, and eventually it's going to happen.
So do you feel like you have I think you do, a discovery phase with a business owners like, look, Jeron, I know I need to get out there. I know I need to do more. I need you to help me analyze what I need so that we can sit down and talk. What does a budget look like for that? Is that something that you can do with business owners?
Yeah. So that is something that we do, and that goes into the initial consultation. So when a business owner even subscribes on my website to say, hey, I need your services, they're met with a questionnaire and a brochure, and it kind of walks them through the process. It walks them through what I've done in the past. It walks them through what clients have said about me, and how I've helped those clients. It gives them actual results, how we've taken clients from, 3,000 views to over 250,000 views, over a period of time. And then it goes into the services. And from there, they're able to select and say, this is what I think I'll need most of. And it's all descriptive, right? It's not just a YouTube video.
Sure.
It shows what the YouTube video will entail. And it gives a description about who this YouTube video would be best suited for.
Right.
And so, after they experience all of that, then now I have a better understanding of who they are. And last part is a questionnaire, and it kind of shows me, where do you want to be in 3 to 6 months? Where do you want to be in 12 months? What have you done in the past? Remember we talked about going through that 3 lifespan
Sure.
Phase or whatever. And so going through all of that, man, by the time we get to the consultation table, I have a very good understanding of who this client is. They have a very good understanding of who I am. And then from there, that's when we can start saying, okay, look, if we need to do research, market research, let's go there. Some clients, they come to me and they have an idea. And then after the consultation, they're like, you know what, I was thinking too small. Yeah. My business could be more of an online business versus a traditional business like it's been. So then we start talking about how we can make that transition. What would that look like? What would your website look like? What would your sales staff look like? What is the training that goes into all of these different things for your people that you already currently have? Are they suitable? Do you need to get more online people or, virtual assistants and that kind of stuff? So all of that's in the consultation. And then by the end of that, then we have a surefire plan, able to present them with that surefire plan, a week later or so.
Sure.
And then we take it from there.
I think it's important for people to understand that there's no silver bullet that you can say, we're going to hit this button or we're going to produce this video and manna's going to rain down from the heavens above. I haven't found in my business that it works that way, but through being consistent, having a vision, and executing that vision, and then giving that vision time to work.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't created in a day. It takes time for a lot of this marketing stuff to work. If you're going in with strictly, for business goes, strictly in marketing and not doing anything else to enhance, that's an expensive way to get a business off the ground. But marketing is a necessary part of business for the longevity of it. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And I like what you said about execution. One of the things that I believe is kind of the downfall of most business owners is the execution, right? But that's two forms of it, right? The first part is, of course, the execution of getting it done, knowing how to do it, knowing why you're doing it, knowing what to look for once it's done. They don't know that. But then the second form is the execution, which is killing off the old habits, killing off the old ideas of this is what got me here. This is what I have to do. This is what my dad did. This is what my grandparents did. This is what we did, to make our name. Killing those old things off and embracing what's new and embracing where we are today.
I don't think somebody has to. So I love that you said, I don't think, and I agree 100%. A lot of people find their identity in how they got to where they're at. And you can still celebrate that. And that can still be a part of what has gotten you here and makes you great. But if you're not willing to embrace the next, what got you there won't keep you there. You have to continue to grow. Now, your work ethic and all that stuff that got you there, yes, it's great. But in the days of having a small community where you were the only person that had this product and everybody came to you, those days are gone. I mean, if you just drive through small town America, Winsboro, a lot of the small communities, when Walmart moved in, I mean, small businesses got crushed at that point. Now, was there an opportunity for them to diverse into something else or change a strategy? It was possible for it, but I believe businesses on any level can survive if they're willing to make the changes necessary to survive. Yeah. And for many, it's going to come into that new way of marketing and making that change. And I feel a lot of people don't have the confidence within themselves to do it, and they don't think they can afford hiring someone like yourself to do it. But the truth of the matter is, they can't afford not to.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a fair statement?
It is a fair statement, and at the end of the day, you can't tell a person how to spend their money.
Sure.
Right? But if they have, and this is what I like to tell clients and potential customers, if you want to be around for the next 20 years, if you want to leave this business to your children, then you have to do the things now where yourself 20 years from now will thank you.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things are cutting ties with, talking marketing specifically.
Sure.
Not tradition as far as, work
ethic
and that kind of stuff. You have to cut ties with the old ways that things have been done, and that's a hard thing for a lot of people. Like I have conversations with people, all day, every day. When I'm not filming or when I'm not doing photos, I'm having business conversations, business consultations, and that's the biggest issue that I keep running into is, well, this is what we've done. This is what I want to continue to do because this is where I'm comfortable, right? But like I said, a few moments ago, we're in the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
This digital revolution.
It's
changing everything. And, what's going to happen in 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, those kids that are only growing up in this, that's all they'll know. I was at a place and they had some interns come in, some college students, and they were asking them, how many of you guys listen to the radio? And they were like, nobody. We listen to Spotify and we listen to Apple Music and, or we don't listen to local radio. And how many of you guys watch television? We watch Hulu. We don't watch YouTube, Netflix. So all of these things are going away. And so taking a $30,000 television budget, and pushing it even a percentage of that, to digital will give you 4 or 5 times the results. But it's knowing where to put it. You can't just put it all in Facebook boosting or put it all in Google Analytics. You have to know where to put it. And if you don't know where to put it, it's not anyone's fault but your own when it doesn't work.
Yeah, I was in a class yesterday with a group of agents, and I was talking about helping them set up their Google business page.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of business off of mine, and we get a lot of traction. But we noticed when I was in that class, I noticed our trend since January. The traffic to the Google My Business has started falling off some on the traffic. Well, why is that? I don't know, but I can tell you that Google knows, and Google's like, well, Brian is a little less relevant because of whatever their new algorithm they have out there is.
Yeah. So
what I try to teach the agents is that if you have something out there that is from a marketing piece out there, for example, the Google business, I said, you're going to have to date it. Mm-hmm. It's not a one-night stand. You're going to have to date it. You're going to have to update it. You're going to have to nurture it. You're going to have to love on it. And it's not just one and done. It's for the life of you using that individual product.
I love that.
The easy button is out there for people if they don't want it or don't know how to do it, is someone like yourself. I created this podcast to highlight the best of what Northeast Louisiana has. And I'm really pleased to know that we have someone like you that can help people in the digital space, help people with their videography, help people with professional photos, that's passionate about what they do, and offer top-level service. You don't have to leave our town to go get the best that there is. We have it right here. So, Jeron, I really appreciate you coming out and just kind of sharing a little bit about yourself and your company and what you can offer the marketplace. So if someone wanted to go to your website to find out a little bit more about you, where would they go?
First thing I would say is Google me.
Okay.
Strickly Us, and it's spelled like my last name, which is Strickland, so STRICKLYUS, and it'll take you straight to all of my stuff. But if you want to go straight to the website, it's strictlyusfilms.com. On Facebook, all my social media, everything is Strickly Us. You can see my Pinterest board and all of that kind of stuff just by Googling that. And that's the easiest way to find me. All my information is on there if you need to call or chat with me, or if you want to run some ideas or sit down for coffee, just message me. And we can take it from there.
And I can speak firsthand. You're an easy man to talk to, and being on the front side of your camera when you're doing video, you made us all feel very, very comfortable. Thanks again for the time. We'll make sure that we have all your contact information in the show notes. And again, dude, man, I really appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing.
This was awesome. I thank you for allowing me to be here. All right.
We good? Mm-hmm. You okay? Comfortable?
Yeah, man, that was good. That was
okay. Welcome to the 318 Experience, the ultimate podcast for discovering the best of what our community has to offer. I'm Brian Bendily, your host and local realtor, with a passion for showcasing the people, attractions, and hidden treasures of Monroe, West Monroe, and beyond.